am talking with Juraj Sladić, the head winemaker at Testament Winery in Croatia. And I've got a bottle here that we're going to discuss. This is a very special bottle, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, I want to welcome Juraj. Thank you for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thank you for your interest and thank you for your support. And it will mean a lot since Croatia is still unknown in wine world, but as I said, we're actually the oldest part of the old wine world.
Which is really interesting. I think Croatia is having sort of an awakening as a tourist destination, and now people are just starting to discover that it's also a great place to experience fantastic wines. Have you noticed that tourism is also growing out there? Because I feel those two will be linked. People will come and then they'll want to experience Croatian wine country as well.
Yeah, winemaking is a tradition, is a way of life here in Croatia. Every family or possess a small vineyard or produce their own wine or buy grapes and then produce their own wine. And glass of wine besides the lunch is normal thing here. When you mentioned tourism is also tradition here in Croatia. We're a very small country, but very diverse country with mountains, with plains, with beautiful islands in Adriatic Sea. And every modern tourist, especially nowadays, when they come somewhere, they want to taste local food, local wines, they want local experience. So we recognize that finally, and although we have lots of hectares planted with international varieties, and especially here in Dalmatia, you can find lots of Syrah and Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon, and these are beautiful wines. But long term, we need to work on indigenous varieties. Only in Dalmatia, we have around 140 different indigenous varieties, commercial indigenous varieties.
Tell us more specifically about your interest, because you've been in the wine world since you were a child. It's sort of a family tradition, is it not?
Yeah, my family is here in Dalmatia for last 400, 500 years. And since then, we have been producing wine, not for the market. And we produced, along with the wine, we produced olive oil, we produced figs, we produced almonds. So it was normal thing here in this Mediterranean Bay. So I actually made my first steps in the vineyard and with my grandfather and with my father, and I was connected to vineyard and to the soil since my early childhood. After that, I decided to continue with that affection and with that love. Right. So I finished faculty for winemaking and enology here in Croatia, and I decided to take that as my profession, which I really adore. And I worked in different small and big wineries. I consulted different wineries. So 5 years ago, I started here in Testament. We are still boutique winery. We are expanding, but we are still boutique winery because of our approach, producing exclusively indigenous varieties, giving dedication to every bottle, to every label, to story.
And how many wines are you making there?
Now we're producing 10 labels, 10 different labels.
Okay. Because I have a bottle here, which you said is now sold out in Croatia. I think you can see it's a 2017 vintage. So tell us, first of all, what is the grape Babaj like? If somebody has not experienced Croatian wine and they're a little bit nervous, because as you know, a lot of people stick to the wines that they know, and that's all that they'll drink. But we try to have people expand their palates. So tell us about the grape and what people can expect.
So Babajis is very local, very unique. You can find it only here in Šibenik region where Testament winery is located. So it's northern part of Dalmatia. So I can say that it grows only here and nowhere else in the world. If you want to compare it with some known appellation or variety, I always say it's a combination of south of France, maybe some Syrah from Rhone Valley, and north of Italy. So it has this very warm southern character. You can feel you can tell it's wine from the southern region, but it has this elegance and freshness and acidity of northern region. So when you combine that, you get the result is fantastic wine that can function very well in winter time. Also in summertime, you can chill it. The very vintage 2017 is actually first vintage of new management, of new owners, and my first vintage here in Testament Winery as winemaker. And it's first vintage of Babich ever in history that won international award. So in 2019 we won silver Decanter medal for that vintage. So it was great success, and it was a benchmark. It was a starting point for future production and for future medals.
And certainly just great to have that kind of acknowledgement. It gives consumers around the world a little bit more confidence to try something maybe out of their comfort zone. Can we just talk first about your winemaking practices and how you have chosen to avoid any animal fining agents and what you use instead?
So it's very I don't know how to say it. It's also connected to way of living here in Croatia. As I said at the beginning, every household has a practice of drinking a glass of wine every day. In the same way, every household has their own garden, or they buy from their relatives or from their family or from their neighbors. So this practice from farm to the table is very normal here.
Right.
And I'm aware that we are not talking enough about that, because we take it for granted. It's normal thing. It's everyday thing. And I think we should talk more about that, because it's especially nowadays when this sustainability and modern world asks more of that type of practices and way of life. We need to push that more. So as I mentioned, this position allows us to work more closer to nature, to use the wind, to use, for example, we have lots of big birds, so we don't have small birds who can potentially eat our grapes in harvest season. We even sometimes keep some weeds to protect the soil from the sun, because it's very harsh conditions. And afterwards, when we are producing wine, we are trying to use as much as possible, not as much, as less as possible, this anno stuff. Sometimes we add, sometimes we don't add. In most of the cases, we work with indigenous yeast, because we have very healthy fruit, healthy bunches of our grapes. We use indigenous yeast, but we control temperature, or we use batonnage to preserve wine, to use less sulfur. When it comes to these fining agents, I think this is the most mentioned topic in this vegan story. We're using this natural clay for sedimentation. If we are sedimenting the wines, there is even case when we let wine to sediment natural way, meaning that we won't be selling that wine next 6 months or in next year. So we let wine sediment by gravity, and we bottle it like that, unfiltered. For example, that Babich is unfiltered. It's bottled directly from the tank. It's, as I said, lots of wineries, lots of winemakers in Croatia, they're organic and vegan friendly, and they don't even know that.
Right.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
I think this is actually something that I've been learning as I talk to winemakers from around the world, is that they are already vegan friendly. It's just not something that's marketed. And for the
Yeah, that's
consumer
correct.
side,
Yeah.
as veganism and just an approach to sustainability, and people are more interested in eco-friendly farming practices, they're looking for that type of labeling. They're looking to support businesses that are being conscious of the environment. So it's something that's starting to grow, and it's great to see more and more wineries around the world acknowledging that and making it clear to their consumers that their products are vegan friendly.
I think that the most important thing is to produce good wine. Wine that is drinkable, that's very nice, that reflects variety, that reflects terroir. For example, we have Poship. Poship is variety of white wine. We have Poship here in North Dalmatia and Poship in South Dalmatia. So when we do the harvest and processing and winemaking methods, aging, we try to produce Poship from north of Dalmatia. We don't want to do copy paste of Poship from South Dalmatia,
Right.
or even do a copy paste of, I don't know, some Chardonnay.
Mhm.
Doesn't make sense. Bottle of wine, and wine needs to reflect terroir and variety, and needs to be special. You need to know what you're drinking. You need to recognize that variety and be able to say, okay, this Poship is different than the one from the south of Dalmatia, so I recognize that it's Testament Poship. That's very important.
Let's talk about the terroir there, because you were talking about the Adriatic Sea and how you have very, very dry soils and very strong sun. So what, just tell us how that's impacting the wine that you're producing.
Sun gives us, of course, lots of sugar, so it's very important for ripening process. Wind is very important for this position, because because of wind we don't have moisture. Because of less moisture we don't have pests, and in that way we are able to or even not to spray, or to spray once or twice per year. If you compare that to conventional production, where vineyards are sprayed 10 to 20 times with stuff which is not ecological or organic, then you can realize this is a blessing to have this position. Also, this karst soil gives, I won't say opportunity, but gives more push to plant, to wine, to struggle more.
Right.
So in that way, at the end you get higher quality potential for the wine. I always compare it to people, to kids. If you give everything to your kids when they are little, you will spoil them.
That's right.
That's the way with the plants and with the wine. So wine needs to struggle, and of course we need to help the wine if it's needed. But we never, for example, we never irrigate a priori. We always let the wine to struggle, and then when it's extreme summer or extreme temperature, we help with a bit of water, but we don't flood it. So it's very alive process. It's very dynamic. Every year is different. On the other hand, you need to have standards as a producer in the market, because people get used to your style, your wines. And in all that, you need to keep your style, your personality as a winemaker, as a brand. But of course, it's very important to respect the market, respect the customer, because I always say that we produce wine for the market, for the people. not for ourselves.
Yeah, I just want to ask you about your bottling process because I know that you use lighter weight bottles as
Yeah.
one of your sustainability practices. So, can you talk a little bit more about what prompted that decision?
Yeah, regarding sustainability, we realized that having lightweight bottles, meaning that we are getting bottles that were produced with less CO2 emission, that were produced with less of material, and at the end of the process, when you're transporting that wine, you're spending less of energy, less of fuel. It's much easier to carry those bottles. So it's definitely part of this sustainability process and growth.
How is climate change affecting what's happening in the vineyards? Are you noticing that yet, or is that
Yeah,
something?
of course.
Okay.
Yeah. We have last 10 years we have shorter vegetation period, meaning that plant and berries and bunches get less time to be ripe at the end, meaning that we are getting every year earlier and earlier harvests start. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge, especially with this very early varieties, which we have a few of them in our vineyard. White Poship and this Tribidrag, which is original Zinfandel. You heard of that story or not?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't heard the story, but I'm curious.
Yeah, actually, you know of Zinfandel and in California and this famous US brand. So 20 years ago, a couple of Croatian and US scientists, they discovered by DNA analysis that the Zinfandel is actually Croatian variety. And in that time, we had only few plants of Zinfandel in Croatia.
Mhm.
So that discovery started the process of replanting and planting new wines. So 20 years after, we have significant areas planted by Tribidrag or Zinfandel and fantastic wines. It's a beautiful variety. So we said here that Tribidrag is the original Zinfandel,
Yes.
and this label is actually a sketch from a notebook of one of these professors. You can see here this DNA helix.
Yes, you can.
And some notes.
What a great label.
You can even see the connection of Zinfandel and Babajis. So it's we had 1,000 plants in our old vineyard, and 2 years ago we planted additional 2 hectares. So we have big plants with this variety.
That's amazing. And for those of you who are thinking maybe of the white Zinfandel, that's not the Zinfandel that we're talking about. We're talking about that really rich, fruity, deep red Zinfandel that you get a lot from, mostly actually from California. So
Yes.
how amazing that that's actually an original Croatian varietal.
Yeah, we produce it in totally opposite style. This Testament Zinfandel or Testament Tribidrag, I like to call it synonym is Tribidrag, Crljenak, Pribidrag, but we call it Tribidrag because this is the oldest name of variety. We have written proof from 15th century. It was planted here in Dalmatia. We produce it as a very herbal, with very high acidity, without this overripe fruit or jammy fruit. It has fantastic aging potential.
Speaking of aging, now you mentioned to me that I should hang on to this one. This is a 2017 vintage, and you said there's fewer than 100 bottles left in the world. So
yeah,
when would be the ideal time to open that wine?
now.
Right now, okay.
Yeah, now that wine, unfortunately or fortunately, is sold out because now it's in top shape. But you can feel free to age it for additional 5 years.
Okay.
So total aging potential from the vintage when it's produced, it's around 10 years.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to opening that and trying it with some vegan foods. Thank you so much, Juraj, for this enlightening conversation. I hope that so many people will expand their horizons and try some Croatian wines. It's a region that I always look for in the liquor store because I like to look for something that's a little bit off the beaten path. So I hope that everyone else will do the same and just experience some of the amazing varietals that are out there, and maybe even head out to Croatia for your next, vacation. Do wine country in Croatia. Thank you so much, Juraj. I hope you have a fabulous day.
Thank you for opportunity to say a few words about Croatia, about our beautiful region of Dalmatia and our Testament winery and these fantastic varieties that we grow. And as you said, we're expecting you here in Testament Winery and in Croatia. Come and visit us.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.